Okay, folks, good evening and welcome to this podcast. Like I said, tonight I'm constrained again to come on because of the police brutality in our country continuously against harmless, peaceful citizens. I think these are sad times. I've said this consistently since December 2017. I was very dismissive of George Weah being president of our nation. I will always repeat that I have never been, I am not, and I will not be against the person George Weah, but the role that he plays as president of our country is something that is completely unrelated to his background, unrelated to what he knows how to do better. George Weah has talents, he has a gift, and that gift he discovered many years ago as a career footballer. George Weah has won all of the accolades, all of the honors that any great soccer player, will imagine winning. There is nowhere on this earth that soccer will be discussed without the mention of George Weah's name. That is what he knows. That is what he's versed in. That is his talent. He discovered it and he had an opportunity. He made use of the opportunity. He promoted not only himself, but our nation. Our nation also became widely known because of the display of his talent as a soccer player. But I think electing George Weah, and I will underscore that it was the wrong decision for the Liberian people to make. I stand by that. I don't regret it. And you only need to think now, 2 years after, and see the reality and see how far our nation has come in less than 2 years and see what has happened to us. I have always said that George Weah is not leading but ruling Liberia consistent with the modus operandi of the CDC. The CDC is not a viable institution. It is not an organized institution with established structures and systems to conduct itself in a viable and acceptable way. So it is difficult for a leadership evolving from such organization or movement to lead otherwise. It's not possible. What we are having in Liberia today, the disorderliness, the dysfunctionality, is not happening by accident. It's not happening by mistake. It is happening because that is the culture that is practiced in the institution that produce the leadership of the country. And this is going to go a long way. This is not going to stop. It's not going to stop because there is no new culture in the CDC to reflect any decency of leadership, to reflect any credible democratic practice. Least to mention, that will be reflected in the governance of the nation. Since the ascendancy of George Weah to the presidency, we have found ourselves as a nation in a disquieting period. This is a disquieting chapter. Every day that breaks in our country, there is bad news. So George Weah and his government just constitute bad news for our country. All of the negative things you can think about happening to our country. There's corruption almost at every level of government. Every level of government. Reckless spending. Even the crashing mode the economy is in, the government is so insensitive and arrogant about it. The president is continuously doing unauthorized budgetary spending, traveling all the time, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, United States dollars, at the expense of a crashing economy, at the expense of an impoverished nation, a weary nation. This is ridiculous. This is despicable. The height of corruption has gone so bad to the extent that even partners, international partners, had to warn the government of not tampering with partners' funds, resources that are intended for livelihood projects, for helping to strengthen our nascent democracy, our embryonic democracy. There's no fiscal discipline. If it is not stealing huge amount of money in the name of mopping up excess liquidity to quote-unquote stabilize exchange rate as a means of stabilizing the economy, it will certainly be we are taking hundreds of thousands to travel somewhere for absolutely nothing, no gains in return to the nation. Or allotting huge amount of money to certain offices and disregarding the provision of basic social services to improve the lives of the people. So today in our nation, because of Weah's reckless spending, civil servants are the victims. People can hardly get paid. People hardly get their just earnings. At a certain point in time, they have to ration salaries, pay certain ministries and agencies for a particular month, abandon others. Another month, pay certain ministries and agencies. That's dysfunctionality. That's disorderliness. That is an indication that Liberia is well on its way for chaos. The country has been positioned like a bus that doesn't have good brakes. and it's on a terrific speed. But there's no way that the driver can stop. And everyone is on the bus screaming for help. That's a situation Liberia is in right now. The country is like there's no leadership. This is total dictatorship. I disagree with my compatriots who continue to say that we're having a creeping dictator. You're not having a creeping dictator. You have a born dictator. The presidency doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you are. That's who Weah has been all along. You are supposed to simply look at the Lone Star of Liberia when Weah was in leadership. But follow that history. Follow how the affairs of the national team was being managed. This is a manifestation of exactly what we have. That's why I've always said Weah has never demonstrated any credible leadership competence to have given him the highest office of our country. Some of you who think that this has been about hate, personal hate, no, you're making a mistake. I've always said that there is nothing to hate Weah about. Personally, this is about our country, the future of our nation. And today, everyone is a victim. Everywhere people are just angry, there's acrimony, there's apprehension, there's suffering. People who knew themselves in terms of having careers or in terms of having qualification to get jobs in different sectors, they can no longer have it. Companies are scaling down. You don't have jobs created in the country. There's no foreign direct investment in the country since Weah took over of any credible magnitude. People literally turn into beggars in their own country, like refugees, like internally displaced people. We look like a nation without any true sense of direction because of the kind of leadership you have in power. The education sector has degenerated to absolutely nothing. Policies that the Weah leadership met, they could not even think about strengthening it to improve implementation strategy so that they meet the purposes for which they were instituted. Instead, he continued with his disconcerted policies in the education sector. So today, what do you find? There's no quality in content. Supervision, curriculum management is either limited or non-existent. Resources are not even there to facilitate the process. Facilities are poor, completely poor, absolutely poor. Quality of learning is poor. Absolutely poor. And then he comes up with an unacceptable pronouncement. I don't even refer to that as a policy. Because he wanted to divert the attention of the Liberian people from the stolen 16 billion that he and folks from the past regime, are responsible for. Just went one afternoon on the campus of the University of Liberia to announce a freaking so-called free public university education. Maybe it's only on Jupiter or Mars that it works that way. Such honor taking should never be about a pronouncement, should not be about a president, should not be about the president. It should be a policy, develop a comprehensive policy about improving the education sector that will be presented to you by the Ministry of Education. And then you forward that to the legislature for action, or ensure that it is adopted by education stakeholders in the country, so that it's not about you. So that after your reckless regime, others coming to power, we have the responsibility, we have the obligation to implement such policy. And such policy should be comprehensive. It should look at content. It should look at quality. It should look at infrastructure. So that when students are not paying fees, that they have everything to their disposal. That they have an up-to-date library. They have up-to-date laboratories. They have the classroom set up to meet a 21st century classroom requirement. And that there is a process in place to ensure that teachers and professors are paid well and timely too. So this should not be about you as an individual, but sadly we elected a celebrity. Somebody who ruled his own word. Somebody who is intolerant, does not listen to others. Somebody who does not have the word avast in his vocabulary. Somebody who doesn't have the word counsel in his vocabulary. Somebody who doesn't believe in information sharing. Somebody who believes in his unthinkable reasoning. His irrational decision-making mentality. That's what we have in our country. So the education sector is dead. Look at the health sector. It's supposed to be quiet. A sector of professional people who least supposed to be talking about manifesting their anger, their disapproval for not being paid, for the lack of medication, the lack of proper infrastructure to perform the services that they need to perform. Everything is degenerating in the health sector. Least to mention paying the salaries of health workers in the country. So that is not even a priority. It's not even a priority. The business sector, the environment is not enabling at all. The banking sector has its own challenges. The Yana boys down waterside have their own challenges. When importers are having issues, where do they get the goods from? The commodities from? To help themselves, to buy their copybooks, to buy the canner, to be able to study, to continue to put gas in their motorcycles, to transport people and make money. How? Taxi drivers, commercial drivers in general, how do they get money to get gasoline, fuel in their vehicles to take people around? If they do that, it's going to be at the higher cost. And the people continue to be the victim of this situation because they don't have the purchasing power anymore. Some of them prepare to walk long distances against their will. Because gasoline price is high, fuel price is high in the country. You have complete inflationary spiral at 28%. So the exchange rate is around $200, sometimes a little over $200, chasing one United States dollar. Because of that, you find small amount of goods and services chasing huge amount of Liberian dollars. Where would the people get the money from? Even if they get the money, it is almost worthless or insignificant, making life difficult, making life very difficult. How do you expect your own people in the country to survive? And you remain insensitive to these realities. Monrovia has become a filth. Hygiene and sanitation has no place. Very despicable. So you will see the corridors of health centers packed with mothers taking children, diarrhea, cough, cold, malaria, because they have so many mosquito breeding areas, cockroaches living in the same home with the people, rodent all over the place. They're all sharing the same home, competing for the same food. People get sick every day, and there are no services to address their health needs. And then disgustingly, you run around every day from place to place because that is what you know. At the expense of the crash economy, spend so much money to run from one country to the other. I listened to his disjointed speech the last time, talking about having a special blessing from God that he was able to celebrate his country, his birthday in 3 different countries in one day. Must that come from somebody who holds the highest office in a nation that is perishing economically? So it means that he even lacked the common sense to know what to tell his people. You know what it means? To make such stopovers? You're not an ordinary person, the president of the country, traveling with a huge delegation as though when the Western country is dispatching a whole battalion to a war front. And you stand there, take microphone, so arrogant about it, telling the people that it was a special blessing. You think because you have the key to the wealth of the nation and that the Liberian people don't have access, that you're stealing their money, you consider that to be a blessing? You are a common criminal. You and your band of kleptocrats, of rogues, bringing our country down to its knees. You are not even concerned that nothing is working in the country. Everything is breaking down, that there's no investment in the country. You're not creating the enabling environment for investors to be attracted to the nation. The brutality in Monrovia today against armless children was unacceptable. Very, very unacceptable. George Weah, you lack the common sense. Not even as a president. but as a decent Liberian. That children will march throughout the street and that you come and insist that you have to pass because they block the road. That doesn't reflect the mark of any decent leader. You are a complete tyrant. You are a dictator. Somebody with common sense was going to stop today, make sure that their convoy turn around, and consider the protest of those children of our country, our precious Jews, as the highest priority. Walk to them and show them as their leader. Ask them to go back to their classes and assure their teachers that they were going to be paid. But today you have just proven to the Liberian people that you are not just incompetent, but you are so reckless and so foolish, so insensitive, and very arrogant, very disrespectful to the people that voted you president. Not me, because I've never trusted you as a leader. You are very irresponsible, very clueless. I don't blame those who are always claiming that you are always high on drugs. It pains my heart to watch that video. It's very despicable. You should have no place in leadership in our country. You should have no place in leadership in our country. And what you and your partisan police did to the children of that country, you guys are going to pay for it. No matter how long it takes, you guys are going to pay for it. Rushing into the classrooms as though you are going for animals. Whooping innocent children, armless children, children craving education. That is so despicable, so disgusting. Liberia doesn't have a leadership. Liberia doesn't have a leadership. Liberia has a band of crooks, thieves, insensitive group of people. Lack the common understanding of governance. But the Liberian people, you think this is just going to just end automatically? And God is going to come down to ask George Weah and his band of thieves to leave power? You think that's what's going to happen in our country? No. The answer is a resounding no. You have to begin to take actions. We must act. And if you think this is about the usual, Joker is a doomsday, prophet. Joker is hateful. Joker is going to be hateful for 2 years. You need to see me. Hateful people are not happy people. I am a happy man, living happily. But it pains my heart all the time to see my nation in such state because of you. You have turned our country into a criminal's paradise. As I said the last time, you were in power when the so-called 16 billion Liberian dollars was quote-unquote infused in the economy. Ellie and her people took a very good portion of it. And I've always challenged her. She and her people had never been able to account for the millions that they were indicted for by audit reports that are still all over the place. One of the reasons for which the Liberian people elected you ignorantly. How could they even elect you? To ensure accountability. when you are an embodiment of the different acts of corruption? How? How possible could that be? That was their hope. That was their understanding. Sometimes I feel bad that they did it. But again, when I have sober reflection, they were hopeless. Because even the so-called politicians of our country failed the people. The fact that the very day you, George Weah, decided to test the political waters in 2005, every effort was supposed to be made by those so-called politicians to prevent you from getting to the highest office. But because of greed, selfishness, they created a corridor for you to become president. So they also share part of the blame for this despicable situation in our country, for this unacceptable situation in our country. It was their expectation that the first thing you were going to do was house cleaning. Go in there, ensure that you get a public account committee to do a review of all of those audit reports and make sure that they are forwarded to the Justice Ministry for prosecution. Least did they know, to their astonishment, the day you took over as the leader in perpetuating corruption, in deepening corruption in all forms. This is unacceptable. The brutality carried on in Monrovia today is unacceptable. Very unacceptable. And as I said, you and your band of thieves will pay for it. Your action today tells us that you don't even have common sense. Every day we're giving ourselves a headache that you don't have the credible political or corporate leadership experience. That's even too hard for you. You lack common sense. You lack common sense. Like I said, no good leader today was going to pass those children. Least to mention, allow your convoy to drive through the way it did today. Allow your partisan police to go on campuses, pull those children from the classroom, beat them. Like we are in the era of slavery. But that's your mentality. Everything should be about you. And that's what the Liberian people don't know. That's what they didn't know. Probably they're getting to know now. Because they brought this nightmare on us. They brought this punishment on us as a nation. Impose you on the nation. So everybody everywhere is protesting, but you don't care. It doesn't speak anything to you. It doesn't tell you that your leadership is in jeopardy, that your legitimacy is seriously questioned. That your leadership is in serious trouble, that the Liberian people disapprove your undesirable and unacceptable governance model. Very strange model. You are no different from any of those dictators of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You are just one of them. But trust me, the Liberian people will not stop. They will not stop. They will continue until sanity is restored to that nation. We will continue until sanity is restored to that nation. My only regret today is the fact that the opposition has not organized itself in an acceptable fashion. That is my regret. And it is unthinkable that a group of people who see, feel, and understand the problems of our nation will not conduct themselves in a manner and form that will help to arrest the situation. Instead, politicians are all over the place promoting their individual bids. That is not going to unseat this dictator, this tyrant in 2023 if he should remain president until that time. It's not going to do that. And some of you are not even of this generation. Fighting to steal the opportunity of this generation. Who told you that we lack the men and women with the leadership competence to produce decent and productive leadership that can transform our nation, deserving the trust and confidence of the Liberian people? Who told you that we lack it? Who told you that we lack it? We don't. We do not. There are many young men and women from all sides of the aisle that are capable, that are qualified to produce decent and productive leadership in our country. The last time I was discussing the issue, the history of coalition and alliances in Liberia, and I said, it has never been successful. And I want to record one success story. And that success story, the chemistry was different. The chemistry was completely different. It only succeeded because political parties, constituent political parties, had to dissolve. Themselves. 1987 election, coalition did not hold because of the same greed, selfishness, money. Today the CDC coalition is not a coalition. CDC is only accommodating the LPDP and the NPP. The LPDP and the NPP don't have any independent voice. They don't have any realistic leadership role. They don't have a credible say in the decisions that are made to affect the so-called coalition for democratic change. Everything is about one person. He's the law and gospel. George Weah. That's not a coalition. His leadership is crumbling, and so the so-called coalition is crumbling. And it is in fact inundated with problems, overwhelmed with issues. Because the actors are now of the same mindset. So it's not a coalition, it's not an alliance. It's an accommodation of convenience. And it was just meant to give George Weah the presidency and allow some of them to come to prominence so that they too can say, yes, we tasted power before at the expense of the suffering people. That's what we have in our country today. We have never had it. The Coalition for the Transformation of Liberia, it did not really succeed in meeting its established objectives because of the same heterogeneous kind of arrangement. For those of you who did chemistry, the only alliance that succeeded was the alliance established by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And the reason why it succeeded, because she is crafty. Very crafty. She succeeded in convincing 3 traditional political parties of our country. The Liberia Unification Party, established by the late classroom teacher William Gabriel Pole. She asked the leadership of Loop to dissolve that party and join ranks with her. She asked the leadership of the Liberia Action Party of the late Jason Fiado to join ranks with her. And the folks of the then Unity Party to dissolve it and say, so we can build an acceptable coalition, an acceptable alliance. That was her strategy. And it worked. They dissolved Loop, they dissolved LAP, they dissolved the then Unity Party, and they formed the so-called Grand Unity Party. That was the only alliance that was successful. And it was all geared towards making Ellen Johnson Sirleaf president. And they made her president. So what happened today? There's no Loop, there's no LAP. There's a Unity Party. But there are how many persons committed to the ideals of the Unity Party? How many persons committed to the ideals of the so-called CDC, if it has one? We are on the same path. We are on the same trajectory. Nothing has changed. The politicians that Liberians have been looking up to because of names and the depth of their pockets. They are now putting in place any strategy that will give hope to the already hopeless people of Liberia. That tomorrow, the situation is going to be different. It's going to be positive. There's nothing like that that exists right now. Absolutely not. But now, we should not be hearing individual politicians promoting their own bids for the presidency. They should be discussing around the issues consistently. They should have a strategy. They should have an established manifesto that bound them together, with everyone having roles and responsibilities to play. But now they should have an institution with an ideology, with a belief that will bind them together. They should make it legal by now. Not individuals going their own way, going to different conventions, individual conventions, going to individual functions as individual political parties. They should come together. If it is going to be the CPP, it should be the CPP as a legal entity now, as far as our electoral jurisdiction is concerned. Then the Liberian people will begin to feel hope that even if George Weah continue as president of our country, he will be unseated in 2023. But as we speak right now, the situation is a hopeless situation. It's a hopeless situation. Nobody is taking the leadership. They have not changed their mindsets. Everyone is in it for himself or herself. But I got good news. As I said from the outset of our conversation, if they think that the Liberian people owe them and they have to pay back by giving them the presidency, that's a blatant lie. Young men and women are determined than ever before. We are going to rise, and it's not going to be about tomorrow, it's going to be about today. We are having conversations and we will come together. It doesn't matter where you come from. decent people in the CDC, decent people in the NPP, decent people in the LPDP, decent people in the PUP, decent people in the Unity Party, decent people from all of the political institutions in our country. We will come together, irrespective of our alignments. We will come together for Liberia to win, for us to build an institution that will restore sanity to our nation. This thing should never be about an individual just becoming president. Even the Bible, Proverbs said, doing some stupid thing for the second time is like a dog going back to its vomit. And our situation is not even the second time. It's like the fourth, fifth time. That has kept us in a state of degradation, in a dehumanized state, swamped by poverty, disease. We're going to step up this game. We're going to step up this fight. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if 2023 is now about Cummings. Don't be surprised if it is not about Joseph Joekai. Don't be surprised if it is not about Bromsky. Like I said, I hope he is recuperated and back on. Don't be surprised if it is not about Nyombli Kanga. Don't be surprised if it is not about Benena Ure. Like I said, men and women of this generation are equally qualified to provide a leadership differently from all of the regimes we have experienced, we have witnessed in our history. This is time for us to rise to the occasion. I'm challenging every young man, every young woman to rise to the occasion. This thing cannot continue. Look at the situation we have. This is a disgrace. It's a national disgrace. Weah does not have any quality of a president. So how do you expect him to surround himself with qualified people? Everything is breaking down, and you think it's going to be by magic? That the problems in the country will be solved? It's not by magic. The people who are supposed to solve the problem are getting tired. We are in one of our worst periods. One of our worst chapters as a nation. And tonight I'm speaking to you from my heart. I'm speaking to you from my heart. It is up to you. We all will be making calls. We are talking to each other, Liberians on the ground, Liberians in the diaspora. We have started communicating. And let's take the challenge. I'm so tired. It's so disgusting. Every time to see, oh, this man will be the president, that man will be the president. Liberians don't judge people by their competence. But because they be around and consider themselves to be politicians. This is not going to work in our country anymore. This is not going to work. The young people have to rise. This is their generation. They have to take on the affairs of our country. And it should not matter whoever is going to be first on the ticket or second on the ticket. Because these greedy politicians, they are not going to just give it to one person to be number one and not the next person number two on the ticket. They're going to be fighting among themselves until Weah will perpetuate himself into power. Right now, some of them are clear that they will be number one on the ticket no matter what. Come what may, they must be president of our country. I don't care whoever is involved. But I have that vision. I have that dream. That if the young people come together, if we come together and decide to take on the affairs of our nation, we will do it better than they have done it. We'll be able to rescue our nation and put our nation back on a trajectory of peace and sustainability. That is what we need to do. And that's how our country will recover. That is how our country will recover. I'm not here anymore to entertain conversation about individual. You know, this person is supposed to be president. That person is supposed to be president. That's not what we're going to take George Weah down. What we're going to take George Weah down is the formation of an institution right now. A credible institution that binds all of the political actors together. With a unique objective and vision. Fighting together. Discussing around the issues. Not names of individuals. That's the only thing that can unseat a tyrant of the magnitude that we have. A despot of the magnitude that we have. That's the only thing that can take him down in 2023 if he should remain president of our country until that time. So we just elect people out of foolishness. I like the man. I love the man. And the way the man talked to me. We got to get out of that. Hurriedly take charge of our country and educate our compatriots and make them aware of their roles, rights, and responsibilities as citizens of their own country. So that when they are making leadership decisions in their country, subsequent leadership decision in their country is no longer about liking the person. It's about the person's experience, understanding of the foreign policy of the country, the economy of the country, the national security. It should be about those. Okay. We have a responsibility to educate our people. And we have to create the environment for that. The way we do it is to take on the leadership and create such environment. We have to create an enabling environment so that there is strong private-public sector initiative, partnership initiative, where government will not be seen as the employer. Government will create the enabling condition for businesses to grow, to boom, and create more jobs for the citizens. We have to be able to address the issue of waste in government and put more money to social services. Educate the young people. Rehabilitate those that were affected by the crisis in our country. And give them a standing in our society so that they too can share in the economy of their country. We have to create more opportunities by improving the education sector. Not only building more schools, but improving the condition of existing schools, improving the content of our education. Making sure that it is on par with other nations that are doing better. We have to improve the healthcare institution. No nation develops without healthy and educated people. State-of-the-art medical facilities in our country. That's what we have to do. We can do it. We don't have to pay ourselves millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not what we have to do. We should pay ourselves amounts that can take care of us, take care of our family, and be able to put the bulk of the money to services that matter to our nation. We cannot improve security by increasing the number of men and women in arms, by importing more weapons, arms and ammunition, military hardware. No. We can improve security by improving the economic life of the nation. That's how we improve security. When a man gets a job, when his wife gets a job or his wife gets a business, they are earning incomes. They are able to cater for their family in terms of providing education for their children, health care for their family. having their own shelter, having access to public facilities. That is security. We call that human security. That is the best security. We can improve infrastructure. We can do that. When we generate more revenue and we're not spending it recklessly, we're not doing unauthorized budgetary spending, but we're putting the money to those services that matter in our country, we can put money to infrastructure. Like that, we are able to attract investment. Who told those so-called politicians that we don't know how to do it? Who told them that we don't have answers to those critical questions? We do. Don't take advantage of our silence. We are not timid. We are not passive. We are equally educated. We equally have the experience. It has been done out of respect that you were genuine about what you claim, all of you. But now we have come to the realization that you are very unrealistic, very, very unrealistic in your dealings. That Liberia is now your target in terms of taking it to the next level. Your target is your selfish interest, your selfish aims. It's based on greed. We are ready. I can tell you that we are ready. And you will not devour us. You will not devour us. You will not devour us. It's not going to work. We are aware. Every day we talk to each other. We are aware. We are preparing. Let me let you know from tonight that we are preparing. We are aware. We equally have a solution to our own problems in our country. You have failed us for so many years. The dysfunctionality and the disorderliness in our country cannot be blamed on we are alone. You take also a lion's share of it. Because it is your inaction and actions that have caused it. All because of greed and selfishness. Every well-meaning compatriot under the sound of my voice tonight, know this, that the real revolution is about to take off. There is no well-meaning Liberian will say no to this process. I really thought by now the CPP will have been the answer to the Liberian people problem. I didn't even expect that we could still be talking about the possibility of all of them organizing themselves in an acceptable way and making sure that they get their legal status from the National Elections Commission and that everyone is on board and that everyone is prepared to take George Weah down in 2023. I really thought that by now we'll have made significant progress. But as I can see it, from my own lens, that's not the case. The CPP is only strong, it's only vocal. When a brutality such as the one that just took place happens, then they come out, hold a press conference. That's not what the Liberian people are looking for. The Liberian people are looking for genuine alternative. And to establish that genuine alternative, the process should begin now. And the indicator should be clear, very visible, to convince anybody that we are on track. But we're having the contrary. We are having the contrary. We are having the contrary. So we don't want an occasional coalition or alliance. We don't want a temporary coalition or alliance. Weah has given you every reason to organize yourself better. He is communicating, but you don't get it. You are blinded by greed and selfishness. Weah is communicating that you don't organize yourself. I am president, and it will be right that he will be president for 12 or 24 years. Think about the future of those little ones that were being brutalized today, just less than 2 years into the so-called Weah regime. Just imagine what will happen after his so-called 6 years, going to another 6 years, because of your selfishness, because of your insensitivity, because of your pomposity, your arrogance, because of your ridiculous belief that the Liberian people owe you. Nothing of that nature going to work in our country anymore. We don't owe you. You owe us. You owe our generation. All of you collectively made life difficult for us in that country. You didn't lay any sound or firm foundation for us to thrive on. Instead, that country experienced political instability all her life. The people have all the time been known as suffering people, marginalized people, dehumanized group of people. That's not what we want to be. That's not what our nation's supposed to be. We are better than that. You cannot keep us in that state. No. This gotta end. And we are ready. It is time to shut that down. If you don't know, let me remind you tonight. Let me let you know that 2023 might not just be about any of you. So we're not going to give him any more. Like I said, never are we going to do that. No more patronage leadership in our country. The reality of our body politic has to change. And no one is going to change it. We are going to change it. The power to institute change in our country lies in our hands. And we are going to make adequate use of it. God is not going to come down from heaven to come and change it for us. God is giving us the wisdom. God has given us the opportunity to acquire the knowledge and experience. God has made nature so appropriate for us to do it. We don't care about where the resources will come from. Yeah, you will want to rely on the fact that there are impoverished people in our country. And so you'll continue to use your resources and to attract them. But we are ready to go all out on a massive education campaign. We are talking to each other, encouraging each other to become very effective. For some of you, it's a surprise that you are seeing me becoming regular on Facebook doing podcasts. I'm going to do it as often as possible because there's a need for it. And the situation has to change. We can no longer even rely on those religious leaders in our country because they are part and parcel of the situation. And it's so unfortunate that instead of the religious community becoming the conscience of our society, the moral voice of our society, they are now partners of the government. in dehumanizing their own people. It is our fight, and the fight is on. And many of you know me, know my likes. We don't relent. It is not in my blood. It's not in my spirit. We will not allow our nation to bleed beyond this. We will not sit supinely and see the disgrace that is on us to continue. We have to avoid the situation. And like I said, the power to do that lies in our hands. If those politicians can fail to stop George Weah from becoming president since 2005, it should speak volumes to you. But this time, 2023, is their bust stop. If we have not done it before, we must do it now. The time is now. It's not tomorrow. Those children whose blood was shed today because of an incompetent president, a disrespectful president, a reckless president, a rookie president, inexperienced president, is demanding justice. The spilling of their blood today, the splashing of their blood today, the oozing of their blood today is a call. It's a call wherever you are, which side of the aisle you come from. It could be Unity Party, CDC, Liberty Party, LPDP, NPP. It's a call. It's a challenge to you. I was in tears coming from work this evening, watching the video in my car, and saw blood oozing from the children after being brutalized by a group of barbarians that we call police officers, cannibals. This is unacceptable in our land. If you have never fought before, you have never stood for justice before, this is a call. This is a call. We should never allow this to continue in our country. Armless, innocent, young children, our precious jewels who's supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow, they are not even being groomed, they are not even being prepared because of the lack of opportunities. But here you are, treating them like slaves. George Weah, you are heartless. Very heartless. No wonder why you say your mother was a market woman. Apparently, you didn't even know her well. Because to say she was a market woman, a plural women, that's crazy. I'm really hurt by that. Those helpless kids. I thought it was one of the SDA children. But watching the video today touched me, took me off balance. And I couldn't even imagine that was happening in Liberia. In a country where the people show you so much love. Where the people put you above their interests. Where the poor people worship you. And you've shown them so much ingratitude for their goodness towards you, for their good behavior towards you, for their likeness towards you, for the love shown to you. You lack common sense. In December of 2017, when I said that you are not even worth to be a town chief or a community chairman, and your people talk to the street all over, slamming me with insults, profanity. But that's the fight. That's the reality. That's who you are. And change will not come to that country if you remain in power. Because you have no mark, no credible indicator to show any prospect for change in our country. All those who are hailing you, they are hailing you not because they love you. That's deep hypocrisy. That's sycophancy. Because they rose to prominence because of your popularity. So you are a political nobody. You have disgraced us as a nation. You have brought an embarrassment to us as a nation. We are even ashamed to talk about our nationality in places. I'm sure by now many of my compatriots who voted you in power, some of them feel that they have blood on their hands right now. But all I can say to them, don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourselves. You will only blame yourselves tomorrow if you don't take action now. You will only blame yourself tomorrow if you don't take action now to undo this disorderliness, this mess that you brought on us. It's time for you to take action. Don't feel sorry for yourself because of the decision that you took. Some of you were misled. There are some who feel very ashamed and embarrassed right now. Those who took the decision to make this rookie of a president. Don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. It's time for you to rise up, to act. So that we can bring sanity to that office. The first office in our country. No turning back. Let's take this thing on. Let's take the fight on. There are gladiators. Gladiators. I can't even start calling names right now. If I start to call names right now of group of people who can come together and make Liberia better, you wouldn't go to bed tonight. You wouldn't sleep tonight. I would not even go to bed tonight. So many decent Liberians across the world and back home. We must come together and do this thing. It's a project to save Mama Liberia, to restore sanity to our country. We cannot depend on these political vultures, calling them politicians, who have fed on our nation wealth for so many years and have not created any opportunities, kept our nation in such a despicable state. Are we going to continue to do that like we have never gone to school before? Like we have never had any leadership experience before? We can't do that. We will not We were not. We were not. And they're not going to fool us anymore. This thing is not about so-called big names anymore. Let's get all of them off the stage. And let's take charge. And do it better. We need political cleansing. Our body politic deserves better. We can situate it properly, appropriately, so that it becomes a reference point for other nations. So that we merge our reputation as the pioneer for African freedom. So that we merge our reputation as the second independent black nation in the world after Haiti. So that we merge our reputation of being there when the League of Nations was established, of being there when the United Nations was established, of taking leadership of the Security Council of the United Nations, the General Assembly, rather. We need to take charge so that it is reflective of our status as the nation that initiated the first conversation, the precursor to the establishment of the Organization of African Unity in Addis Ababa in 1963. We initiated the conversation in Sanikwele in our own backyard and talk about African freedom, talk about African unity. Our concept of African unity was consistent with the concept of African unity of the late Kwame Nkrumah. An African unity where nations were to be united with a political leadership, where we will judiciously use our resources to have one of the strongest economy of the world, where Africans will be respected in different spheres, in technology, in economic development, in infrastructure development. That was the dream of our leaders when they sat in Sanikwele. Even though, unfortunately, when they met in 1963 in Addis Ababa, the situation changed because of the influence of colonial powers. That dream must not die. We must be referenced. But today, Liberia is not referenced in any credible way in publications and written history for being that pioneer who initiated the conversation on what you have today as the African Union. We are not referenced. We need to situate our nation. We need to reclaim our nation and situate it appropriately so that we are referenced. We have to situate ourselves in a way that we are referenced. As the engineer of the establishment of the Mana River Union, when Liberia and Sierra Leone met 5 times in Bo-Warasa and established the first protocol for the establishment of the MRU, Guinea and Cote d'Ivoire were not there. It was after that Guinea joined, followed by Cote d'Ivoire. Liberia is referenced. Liberia should be referenced, rather, appropriately in that respect. So much to make us proud. But yet our attitude, based on our past leadership, successive governments, have kept us in a horrible state. No one wants to talk about the positive things that we have done as a country. And it is obvious that nobody will want to do that. The worst was even electing George Weah as president after 170 years. The best we could do was to elect George Weah as president? Come on. Okay. That was for the record. And I agree with my compatriots who say that it was better for him to be elected so that he gets off the political stage. Because now electing George Weah was always the source of fermenting trouble. Okay, if that was the case, then make use of the opportunity now. Let us come together. I'm challenging you. Let's come together. If we do that, we become selfless. It doesn't matter who will be first and second on ticket. That should not be our concern right now. Our concern right now should be how we can organize and have a better organization and have a better institution that reflects the hopes and aspirations of every Liberian. And it's not hard. If you look in the different political parties, their platforms are not dissimilar. They are not dissimilar. Their platforms are the same. They are talking about education, healthcare, security, economic security, decent, sound foreign policy. That's what they're talking about. So why is it that we can do a constructive harmonization and have a unique ideology and have a unique vision and work as that formidable force that George Weah cannot resist? Why can't we do that? We have everything it takes to do it. Among us, there are economists. There are educationalists. There are engineers. There are health practitioners, professional nurses, medical doctors, physicians. We have everything, all of the resources that it takes to restore our nation. Why do we want to be worshiping group of people who don't have interest in the restoration of sanity to our country, but rather how they can continue to forge their individual aims and objectives? Why do we want to do that to ourselves? That's not what the guys do in Nigeria. That's not what they do in Ghana. That's not what they do in South Africa. That's not what they do in Tanzania. Talking about Mogophili, the Mogophilification. We will talk about that another day. That's not what they're doing in Rwanda. Talking about Paul Kagame. That's not what they're doing. They're doing it better. They're doing it the other way around. When they go to elect their leaders at the poll, they elect people on the basis of their experience, on the basis of their qualification. That's why when you look in their parliaments and their legislatures, you see professionals, not people who make politics as career. And with the understanding that when you can talk and just talk, then you're a good politician. A good politician has a profession. A medical doctor is a good politician because he or she provides for people's needs, health needs. A teacher is a good politician because he or she educates a nation. An engineer is a good politician because he or she contributes to building infrastructure. Scientists are good politicians because they invent, they forecast. Of course, Terry, you're right. Policy crafters, you're right. And the list is long. And we don't lack those. Many of you have spent years educating yourselves, working in credible institutions around the world. Many of you have served in leaderships in our country in various capacities. That has never changed you because you have a moral standing. You have the experience. Why can't we, amalgamate, in the words of the scientists? Why can't we build a homogeneous institution? Characteristic of a unique ideal, a unique ideology, unique principles. Why can't we do that? Nothing should hold us. And we can sit as a group of educated people and rely on memes. Oh, John Brown is the right person. Oh no, John Brown will not be the right person. Peter Paul is the right person. To hell. Sorry for the language. But I repeat, to hell. To hell, because there are people qualified to even serve better. The time is now. Let's continue the conversation. I had to become emotional. I had to become very passionate, like all of you on this podcast. I can just imagine what you are going through from watching the videos. I can just imagine what you're going through. I'm feeling the same thing. But I hope you feel the urge that I feel. I hope you feel the urgency that I feel. I hope you have developed the hope that I have developed. Because I know nothing is impossible if we decide to do it. I know. Okay, Terry, you want to come on to say something? Let me just have you come on. Send me the invite. Let me let you come on. Let me let you come on, Terry. Send me the invite, Terry. I'm going to let you come on. But I hope we all feel the same urge, the same urgency. And I hope we are hopeful than ever before. Because I have no doubt that this is going to work. So Terry, send me the request. I'm going to bring you on. Oh, my senior brother Aaron. Okay, 1 second. Let me just get my continue. Okay, I thought Terry was going to come on, but he hasn't come on yet. I would like to use the opportunity to say thank you very much for listening, for following. Let's do this as often as possible, and this is going to be good for us. Thank you for watching. Good night to everyone.